All right, welcome back to Code It Live, our Twitch channel here. Good afternoon. If you're in Europe, we are live here from Stockholm, Sweden, at a conference called Swetugg. Very early good morning if you're in North America. Good evening if you're in other parts of the world, and welcome back. With me, I have Layla Porter, one of the coolest persons here at the conference. So introduce yourself, please.
Hey everybody, yes,
Yes, you are the coolest person.
I am the coolest person here, of course. I am a developer evangelist at Twilio. Hello all my live coders out there. I am a Microsoft MVP.
Nice.
For developer technologies, I think that's what I am. There's a lot of different things with that. What else? I host mk.net, which is my local user group.
And you're from London?
I'm born in London,
okay.
But I grew up abroad and then I moved back to London when I was 18. So I actually live in Milton Keynes, which is about 60 miles north of London.
Okay, all right.
Home of Bletchley Park.
Yes. So tell us about Twilio real quick.
Well, Twilio is your one-stop shop for all your communication needs. So we have everything from SMS, video, chat, voice, chatbots, AI, machine learning, natural language interpretation, serverless stuff, contact centers, fax. If you want a fax, we have a fax API. We have a lot going on.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Personal shout out. I love what Twilio does. So thank you for what you do. But you were doing a talk here that I found intriguing.
Okay.
One is it's about TDD, test-driven development, and then you had something about terminators, which was intriguing. But my code is perfect. I don't write unit tests. Why should I write tests? Okay, tell us TDD. Tell us about TDD. Where did you start with TDD? Why do you find it?
So this all goes back to a previous job I had where we didn't have a single unit test. No integration tests. It was a telecommunications company, and we handled hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of minutes of calls, and there were no tests. We relied wholly on 6 QAs. And it was after I went through 9 weeks of regression bug fixing, that was a very painful process, that I thought, actually, there must be a better way. So I started looking into better development practices, and I came across TDD, and I was intrigued. And I wanted to teach myself TDD.
Sure.
So I watched YouTube videos, and I was like, it looked like magic. I don't know if you've ever watched YouTube videos of TDD happening. It's like magic. And I couldn't learn it. So I was like, okay, well, I'll read some tutorials, and it just wasn't going in. And I thought, I need real world context. So I came up with programming a T800 terminator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did that. My original GitHub project is still there. You can go and have a look at my feeble first attempts at test-driven development. But it really helped it click. And then I went and had various job interviews, which helped progress it further. And then I was like, actually, I could do this in my Terminator project. So I'd bring those in. And then eventually I got a job as a senior developer at a company that did TDD.
Oh, good.
And then that was again, a whole nother level. So that was really good. And I really enjoyed it. I thought, yes, this is what I want to be doing.
Right. So again, I mean, we have been doing TDD for a while, but do you find that it's a hard sell sometimes in the bigger enterprises?
Absolutely. I think what people see is the production slowdown. When you switch to TDD, there's a lot of foundation laying, and people really need to change their mindset and their approach to how they develop. So you get this decrease in output. And people get scared. So people I talk to, they're like, yeah, we tried TDD, we slowed down too much, so we gave up.
Yeah, but that's not the bigger picture, right? What you're gaining is more confidence and
less
sanity
technical debt
during your releases.
And then an increase in returns. So you have to get past that initial lull. And then once you've gotten past that, you're flying.
Okay.
You can make changes, and you don't have 9 weeks of regression bugs to fix.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us some of your best practices, things that you swear by.
So I take a very practical approach to TDD. Some people will be very purist and dogmatic, but I like to be pragmatic.
We are shipping software. You have to be realistic.
I mean, I've been threatened when I first started TDD. I was struggling. One of the ways people fail with TDD, I mean, it's not really a failure, is they'll write their first unit test and they'll be like, okay, I'm going to go do this. And they go into the method and they're like, right, I need a switch statement here, an if-else statement. And before you know it, they've written the entire method with one test. And then they go back and write their unit tests. And that's very common, and that's okay. When you're starting, you're learning, you need to be kind to yourself. But what senior developers sometimes threaten is, I know you didn't write that TDD, I'm going to delete your day's worth of code. And that's not understanding of people changing a work process. So I think you need to be really kind and kind to yourself as well as those around you, and just have that bit of empathy when you're changing ways you do things. So I think that was one of the ways. And then, just getting used to some of the patterns. So I use red, green, refactor. So you have a failing test, and then you write just enough code to get that to pass, and then you refactor. So you go through this cycle. So if you've written a test and it passes, you're like, wait a minute, I probably didn't do that TDD. So that's a good practice. I'm very into solid principles. Anyone who's been on my Twitter profile will see I like solid. So I will go through and implement those when necessary. Obviously, a practical approach. You can over-engineer stuff.
Somebody knows you in the chat
room. Someone knows me in the chat room. Hello.
So how do solid principles exactly tie in to some of the TDD practices of how you're going about writing tests and like getting requirements and tying it all together before you start coding? So
one of the things you need to think about is exactly getting requirements. Your acceptance criteria is really key. And so the first solid principle, single responsibility principle, means that every method and function should only be responsible for a single thing. If you have 800 lines of code in your method, which I've seen, how do you know what you're testing and what's causing the test to fail? So it's really important to have a single piece of functionality in a method. You can test it, you know exactly where the failure is coming from, so that's where that one comes from. So open-close principle, that's probably the least understood. So I actually like to go through and demonstrate that because people just don't really understand what it means. But basically it means that your functions or anything is open to extension but closed for modification. And that's really important because when you get new requirements and requirement changes, those PMs go, actually we want it to do this now. You want your code and your tests to be robust enough to handle that. So there's a lot of things in there that you don't want to go and fiddle with your tests, and when you update a method you don't want to have to go and change your tests. So if you write robust code, you can just go and update it without having to rewrite everything, which means you have a much greater output.
Sure. Okay, so any anti-patterns we should know?
Not off the top of my head, no. I think, as I say, it needs to be practical. And if you see something that works for you, go with it. I don't think you necessarily need to be strict TDD, where you go through and go, well, I'm not going to write an interface. You need to be able to work with people. So I'm quite big on writing the interfaces, sharing those, checking those in, so your colleagues can get started with their own tasks that maybe use that interface, and then get writing code. And you don't need to have written your code yet.
That's important because you're taking your team along because you believe in something. You're trying to show the value of what you believe in to others, and you want to make it easy for them to be productive. Greetings from CL Dubia. Hi.
Hey.
All right. So, any parting thoughts on somebody who's just starting out doing TDD?
Be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself.
That's the big
great
thing. Advice. Just be patient. It doesn't come overnight. Keep persevering because once it clicks, it really clicks. And I think the biggest takeaway I always say, is write the bare minimum. So, I mean, it's good when I have this on my slides, but if you have a test that says this should return true,
right?
Literally in your method to get that test to pass, you just write return true. You don't need any other code, just write return true and then build on it from there. So you don't get that code bloat. And I think that was my revelationary moment, where you literally can just write return true in your method to get or return false to get a test method to pass. And I think that was quite key.
Yeah. No, and clearly TDD works. We have seen it work in gigantic app dev life cycles. It's just how you do it and how, like you said, be kind to yourself.
That's it.
Yeah. All right. So the good thing is, folks here at the Swetugg conference, they are recording the session. So I encourage everyone here, if you're interested in more of what Layla talked about, go check out her session and the recording.
And learn how to build a T800 developer? T800 Terminator,
yes. All right. So where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Layla Codes It. You can find me on GitHub at Layla-P. And
you write code. You stream.
I do. I stream. And you can find me on my Twitch channel, Layla Codes It. So,
Nice.
Which will be starting up again. I haven't done it this year because I've been on the road a lot, but it should be starting up again in the next few weeks.
Fantastic. Well, we appreciate you taking a few minutes here to come and chat with us. And this is important, and this is how this is a great way for us to have confidence, have sanity, and be productive in what we do and improve our craft. So thank you again. All right, folks, so that's it from us for now. We'll hopefully chat with a few more speakers, and thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you next time.
Cheerio. Bye.
Bye.